Hey folks, thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. I hope you can hear me because it is pouring rain outside on this metal roof, but that is a sure sign of spring. And with spring coming means I'm going to be getting ready to do some paint. One of the things that I wanted to do before I get into the paint is make sure I finish fabricating the mounts for the new seats that I've bought. These are the i3mm from SeatSync or SeatsCo, and they have about a 2.5 to 3 inch suspension spring mount. They are going to be so much better than the factory seats, which are basically a flat board with some foam dust and fabric over it. They're not good for long-term travel. Anyway, what I'm going to be doing today is fabricating some new seat mounts out of steel, getting everything ready to go before paint. Now, because the new seat has a bit more depth because of the suspension seat, I've had to actually raise it up in order to move it inboard to get it in line with the center of the steering wheel, which of course is probably the most important thing. That said, I am a little bit closer to the roof than I used to be, but I think it's within reason. I am in line with the steering wheel. I'm not up so high that I can't see out, which would be kind of up here. I do still have room for clearance to my head to the roof, and the best thing of all of this, look at that suspension. That is going to feel so much better than the old seats in this truck. I am up about 2 inches, which is nice because I can just use 2-inch box tube to make the risers for the seat. So that's what I'm going to do next. Oh hey, and make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end because today I'm adding a new section to the end of the videos called Tips and Tricks, and you don't want to miss any of these.
First step here is cutting 2 pieces of 1.5 by 2 inch 1/8 wall box tube. I'm cutting these so they're 4 inches long, with a 45-degree back cut so I can get at the bolts that mount the brackets to the floor. These will be the bases for the outer seat track. I'm using my horizontal bandsaw for these cuts because it makes a nice, clean, precise cut. Next, I'm going to use my square to mark the center of the box tube to make the mounting holes, which I will then center punch and drill out. With the outer 2 brackets mounted nice and square, I have access to the outer and inner bolts through the ends of the box tube. So now it's time to template the forward inner bracket, which is going to be a little more complicated. Once again, I'll use my craft inner cardboard box and I'll trace the shape of the curve and transfer it onto a piece of box tube for the initial part. Now this box tube is where the seat bolt is, but I need to add some plate to reach where the original seat bolt hole was, so I'll add a piece of 1/8 inch steel plate to the box tube. Look at those heat colors. The front mount is all welded up. Now onto the rear mount. I actually drilled a new hole so I could be in line with the seat track, but I'm going to add a short piece of 1.5 inch angle so I can also tie into the original hole. Right, so that's 3 out of 4 done. Now onto the hardest one. This sucker is on an angle, not near a hole, and the hardest to reach. So once again, I'm using my craft inner cardboard box to make a template, and this is going to require a bit of 1/8 inch plate bump bent to match the curve of the floor. Now I'll be honest, I didn't measure anything here. I just grabbed some scrap and threw it into my home built press brake and eyeballed it. Turns out I got it right. lined up the last hole, and the 4 corners are now done. Now, the last thing I did was mount some 1.5 inch angle between the front and rear mounts on each side. I did this with the seat in place, and as you can imagine, it's impossible to get a camera, welder, and my head in the same place at the same time. Here's what it looked like before and after I removed the seat to weld it up. Oh crap.
Let's try this again without falling off of the truck from 5.5 feet high. I don't know how I didn't smash the camera or anything, but let's try this again. The really nice thing about these seats, other than the fact that they're way more comfortable, is this suspension. And not only are they suspension seats, on the front here, there's an adjustment for your weight. So if I'm driving the truck, I can set it to what I need to be comfortable. But then when my wife gets in and moves the seat up to about here, really, here's a picture. She can then adjust this to her weight, so she's not trying to have a suspension setup that's based on my weight, which effectively wouldn't move. So really simple setup. It's just a screw on the front. You got to take your weight off the seat to adjust it. You turn the screw. So I've just increased my effective weight to 220 pounds, and it's much stiffer now. I keep going up. I'm at 260 pounds now. You can see it hardly moves. The other way, if I crank it down, I'll get to a point here where it won't even support me. So I'm at about 100 pounds now. You can see it already goes all the way down to the bottom. So you find the balance somewhere in the middle. It may not be exactly your weight. So that's about 150 pounds it's set to there. I'm not riding at the top, but I'm also not riding at the bottom. So I've got kind of a nice soft floating there. I want it a little bit stiffer than that because I don't want to bottom out on a bump. So you go there. It's about 180. I weigh about 220, but I don't want the seat to be that hard. So there we go. Nice smooth ride. It's going to be so much nicer. So here's your first one. When you're doing fitting like this, you always want to keep the fitting holes as tight as possible. And what I mean by that, if you've got a bolt going through a hole in a piece that you're fabricating it, keep the hole as tight as possible to the size of the bolt. You want to do this to keep the part as accurately in place as possible. Now, if you're a welder, you know that things are going to shrink and twist a little bit, and that's going to make it difficult to do the final fitting. But here's the tip, and here's the trick. Once you've finished all of the welding, take your bit and upsize it a couple. Now you're making extra tolerance for the bolt to fit through that hole, but you're not sacrificing the tolerance while you're welding it. Keep the hole as tight as possible while you're fabricating. Open it up when everything's finished to make the install go easier. That's tip number 1. Okay, now here's tip number 2 for you. This one's kind of a bonus, and it may seem fairly obvious, but with this being a cab over truck and having an air intake up here, when you lift the cab up, the air intake is open. Do yourself a favor, throw a bag over it before you start working on it. That's going to keep dirt, debris, nuts and bolts that you drop, anything from dropping down into the air intake. Now, the key to all of this is make sure you remember to take it off before you try and start the truck so the air can go into the engine. I hope this install information helps someone. Again, this is the i3mm from Seats Inc. I'll put a link somewhere. I'm not affiliated with them. I have used these seats in the past, never had any issues with them. Found them way more comfortable than what used to be in this truck, so I ordered a set. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click on subscribe if you haven't already. There's lots more coming. Leave us a comment down below. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. I'll do what I can to answer. Share the video if you think it'll help someone else. And don't forget to come back next time. Thanks for watching.